And don't let the early start throw off your timing.
I just need to do some math in my head. So are we starting at 25?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Whenever we start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah, you want to just start at 25. Then I can round it out to 5.
Perfect. Starting in 3 minutes, folks. 3 minutes. Early start today. 3 minutes.
Man. What?
Please finish your drinks. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
I can't do this. That's my little kid drinking thing.
At the bar? Your little kid drinking at the bar? That's kicking him out because it's 2 a.m.
No, little kids have 2 hands on the bottle, and then they go.
It's because they drink too much for their airways to properly breathe in.
I was
like
at
you're
a
really
baby
thirsty,
shower.
but your face hole.
They were like, no, you have to do it like a kid. 2 hands, squeeze. It was one of the apple juice drinking races. I lost very badly.
Oh, we used to take those boxes, and when we were done, you blow into it, so it get real fat. Put it on the ground, you step on it.
No, this is a baby shower thing, Roger. Have you ever had a baby?
Yeah, I had a baby.
Baby shower.
I give baby
baby. There's one of the baby shower games is they fill up a baby bottle with apple juice and you have to drink it with a nipple on.
Wow, they do that at hibachi too.
Do they? Interesting. I had no idea.
It's very strange. Last time I went to hibachi, they had a baby bottle, and then the guy was like, "Baby bottle," because either it's sake or it's apple juice. If you don't want sake, they
do apple juice.
They do apple juice. Huh? Baby sake, and and it's very strange, especially when you have your 90-year-old mother next to you who's being told baby sake, and the guy is like spraying a baby bottle into her mouth.
Wow.
It's so
very
weird.
strange. Very strange.
Man, Cleveland has all the best stuff.
1 minute.
They do. Baby sake.
It sounds dirty, so
It does a little bit. It was. It was very uncomfortable.
Ah, that's the best moments, right?
Right.
It is the best moment. You're absolutely right.
So Sarah, you're doing the pre-roll.
Yep.
Cool.
I shall do it.
All right, Roger, on your mark. What was that?
Get set. I think someone's mic.
That was me.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, you can roll.
All right, 3, 2.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, January 26th, 2018. From DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from an undisclosed hotel room in Las Vegas, I'm Sarah Lane.
And from my artist cave somewhere in Cleveland, Ohio, I'm Len Peralta.
Chris Ashley, are you going to introduce yourself?
I am going to introduce myself. Somewhere in the DMV, your man, Big Chris Ashley, hanging. And if you don't know what the DMV is, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. DC, Maryland, Virginia. Excuse me, not Delaware.
We used to call it Delmarva.
Yeah, Delmarva.
Oh, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, we say Delmarva, DC, but when we just do DC, Maryland, Virginia, we do the DMV. So that's where I'm at.
And from Sailor Snub Studio in San Francisco, I am Shannon Morse.
Thank you guys for joining us. Len's going to illustrate. We're doing a roundtable show. Our producer, Roger Chang, is here to keep us on time. Thank you, Roger.
I'm here to keep you on time.
Welcome to our third roundtable shows. This the third?
Fourth.
Yeah, I think so.
Fourth.
Oh.
Well, then I'm changing the script that someone wrote to say fourth. Now, for those who might not be familiar, once a month we expand the regular show into a full-fledged roundtable discussion. Instead of a half hour of Sarah, me, and a co-contributor covering the headlines that day, we do a full hour of meaty discussion with Sarah, myself, and the other contributors, digging in, talking for 15 minutes. We got at least up to 15 minutes to talk about each topic before we are moved along. Roger will play some music to move us along if we hit that moment. Now, while all our topics cover the news of the day, we'll still start with a quick look at the top stories of the day.
VentureBeat's Evan Blass, aka EvLeaks, has 2 images of what he claims are the Samsung Galaxy S9 and S9 Plus. Neither are significant departures from the S8 if you were looking for something totally different. The Samsung announcement of the phones is scheduled for February 25th, and shipping is set to start March 16th, according to sources.
Google is testing a service called Bulletin that lets anyone publish local news and events. Examples include things like high school sports, street closures, book signings, etc. Bulletin is being tested in Nashville, Tennessee, and Oakland, California. Users can post text, photos, and videos from a phone app, and Google wants to work with news organizations to allow them to take advantage of what's being posted there.
Intel beat expectations for its Q4, growing 4% year over year on the strength of its data center business, which rose 20% in revenue, beating expectations of 10%. Internet of Things revenue rose 21%, and programmable chips grew 35%. Intel also forecasted continued growth despite the Spectre meltdown flaws in its chips. The company says the flaws are going to hurt sales, but promise to ship new chips this year that don't have the flaws or the performance problems caused by software fixes.
Coincheck, Japan's largest cryptocurrency trader, discovered 500 million NEM coins were illicitly transferred from the service. That's about $400 million worth. Coincheck suspended all withdrawals, stopped trading of all coins except Bitcoin, and stopped taking deposits of the NEM coins. Japan's Financial Services Agency is investigating. That's because Coincheck has applied for a license as an exchange and operates under the FSA's rules while it's waiting for its approval.
Walmart is partnering with Rakuten to offer online grocery shopping in Japan in Q3 of this year. Walmart will also partner with Rakuten's Kobo to add audiobook and ebook sales to Walmart's site in the US. A co-branded reading app will be released for Android and iOS.
And Facebook Live will now let viewers tip gameplay streamers a minimum of $3 from the desktop site. Facebook has not said how much of that amount it will keep, but there will be a revenue share. It's part of Facebook's Gaming Creator Pilot Program, which begins on Saturday to help influencers build gaming communities on Facebook. So going after Twitch and YouTube gaming. And that's a look at our top stories. All right, let's kick off with our first topic discussion. This one came from you, Shannon. We've got 30 million some people out there with Amazon Echoes. And back in the day, wiretapping of your phone was a concern, but now we have a microphone in our house that's always listening. Consumers don't generally look at their accounts to see the backlog of saved voice recordings and such, even though they can. Is this a problem?
I think it is a problem. I should preface this by saying that I am also one of those Amazon Echo owners. I have 3 of them now, mostly because I do tech reviews. And then I'm like, oh, this is really convenient for me. I should just keep this in my household. So I do end up being one of these people that owns them. But one of the things that has concerned me over time is that previously, with like Edward Snowden and with AT&T, even way back in the day, we were very concerned about wiretapping happening on phone lines, especially home phones, and then it procured into cell phones and so on and so forth. Now we have these devices in our households that are collecting voice information. There was a previous case with Amazon where Amazon turned over some Echo voice information to a court due to a trial that was going on. I believe it was a murder case. So they turned over voice information. I don't know if it was actually used in the case, but they were able to give that information over identifiably about the person that was involved in that court case. So the question comes around, do we still care about wiretapping since it's become something that is in so many different households now, or do we not care because of that convenience? Now, ZDNet has done these excellent articles about Amazon specifically because they, about every 6 months or so, they'll release a PDF. It's just a very simple document about what kind of data they are releasing over to the government, how much of that data they're releasing. However, unfortunately, these PDFs do not go into a lot of detail. They only tell you the amount and then whether they are subpoenas, search warrants, or other kind of court orders, including FISA type of court orders, and whether they did a full response, no response at all, or just a partial response, and what kind of data they gave over, whether it was non-content, which is like names and addresses, or if it included content, and content would be the thing of concern. That's going to be like data that is stored on a customer specifically. The unfortunate thing with the Amazon Echo in particular is that while they do encrypt the data that is stored in the cloud, and while the Amazon Echo only records about 5 seconds worth, and it always listens for that word, that wake up word, they are still able to identify you based on your account because all that information is tied to your account. If you compare this to the HomePod is completely encrypted and anonymized as well. The Google Home is also encrypted, but it is also identifiable to your account. So how do we feel as a generation giving over this kind of information? And how do we feel that Amazon hasn't explicitly said what information they are turning over to the government? They told us how much, but they haven't told us if this is voice data or if this is customer purchasing power or what information is going on here.
Yeah, and did a great job of setting that up. Just because I know people will tend to misinterpret stuff, a couple of additional points to help people understand this, and I know you understand this stuff, Shannon. Amazon is limited what they can put in their transparency reports, first of all, but they put in less than they can. They could put in the number of total customers, and they don't. What Shannon's talking about, just to be clear, is not the 5-second buffer. That's not getting saved. That constantly is being overwritten. But there's plenty of stuff that you say to Amazon or it accidentally gets triggered and it takes whatever it hears and it sends that to the cloud. That's the stuff that she's saying is associated with your account. That's the stuff that could be turned over. Be honest, Amazon has been pretty resistant to turning things over to courts. The only reason that they turned it over in the case that they have is because the defendant agreed to do it. But they have been, at least in that area, seemingly on their customers' side. That doesn't change the fact that they've got a lot of data and it is associated directly with you, and there's a lot of warrants out there.
The fact that they were able to do that in the first point, so like they don't anonymize that information. Yeah. They were able to give it to the court and say, okay, well, our customer's okay with it, so let me give this information to you.
Yeah, and I think that loosely our customer's okay with it because obviously no one is reading what they're actually doing with the data before they sign up for it. But I think we have two different scenarios when it comes to are we okay? And I think it's an excellent question because, in today's world, the young kids, they take everything they do and it's on the internet. How many, even just in the last couple of weeks, people actually committing crimes, recording themselves and putting it out there. So I think some of these younger folks may not care as much about the information that they're putting out there, whereas people like us who are much older are on the other side of that. We grew up where you keep your stuff in house and you keep your information private, and so for us it's a bit more concerning. And I was in the gym just last week, and they offered to do this body scan thing, and I was like, I'm not doing anything with you guys until I understand what you do with the data, how you store it, who has access to it, how long you're gonna keep it. And the guy just eyes glazed over. He was like, I just want to do a body scan. I was like, no.
He's like, I just get paid commission for each body scan, man. I don't understand.
I'm sorry, bro. I can't help you, man. It's like there's too much going on. So, I wish more people would actually find these things more interesting and then perhaps stop putting so much information out there. But Facebook, Twitter, they all live on our personal information, and so the different ways they put this stuff out to get that information is just kind of scary.
As an example too, I wanted to mention this. I was going through my old Echo voice information, the sake of history. Yeah, it was very fun. So I was going through it, and most of the things that I say to my Echo are very simply just like, hey, how's the weather? What's my calendar? Can you turn off the lights? And that's pretty much it. So sometimes I'll find something in there, and you go to settings and then go to history. And once you find something that you want to look at, for example, there's a few times when it says text not available, click to play recording. And there were a few in there where it just happened to pick up like my husband's voice. And he would just be like, hey, baby, do you want to get some okra fried okra, or just weird random things. And I
Homemade
was just
fried
like,
okra, yeah.
that sounds nothing like the word that I use, which is the second word in PC, so personal, that thing. I'm not going to say it because I don't want mine to turn on, but but it sounds nothing like that. So I was like, why is it picking up those words? Obviously, I can delete that data history, which I'm going to, and I'm going to make sure to schedule a calendar thing that says delete your device history like every week now, since I know it randomly picks up. But for that data to be saved in there, even though it's encrypted, it's not anonymized. It's tied to my account. So if for some reason I ended up in some court case or something, or if for some reason if the government needed that data on me, like Amazon would have the ability to turn that over. And that's the thing that concerns me the most, is that data is there. And I believe that our society doesn't currently care as much as we should about the data that these different companies are collecting. And yes, I know that I'm like spewing anger at Amazon right now. There are a lot of companies that do this as well. A lot of like NSA's old partners and stuff like that with prison days. But they are of concern because they aren't being super transparent with the reports that they're putting out there.
Well, and just to be like a super conspiracy theorist about the court cases, Shannon, as you mentioned, because I looked at my history as well, and most of my history is like, shut up, because
No, I have 3 text not available click to play recording in the past 5. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I sound like I'm a very angry person, because usually I'm triggering it by accident, and I'm like, shut up, God, that's not what I meant. I was talking to somebody else.
Stop.
And it's funny, right? It's like, it doesn't really mean anything. But what if there were some sort of question as to, whether I murdered somebody, and, the kind of weirdness of, maybe there was some, I'm not going to murder anybody, but like that person, someone had seen them come into my house that day, or, just kind of that stuff where you don't have enough
Sarah.
Context.
If they're trying to prove like Sarah was angry, that's something you might want to show in court, is that she was very upset that day. Here's an example. Listen to this recording. Yeah.
And I know that, maybe this is a little bit of a stretch, and I'm not super worried about this, but it doesn't mean that it wouldn't be an issue for somebody in the future.
Right. And the other question is, we know this about Amazon currently, but how much information did Microsoft have with the Kinect, and how much does Siri have, or are they turning over similar type of stuff too? So the big question is too, though, we understand this is going on, but is it enough for you to stop using it? I don't have one.
Right. And for me, it's not, and that's the problem. Like, it should be enough to keep me from using it, but
okay. let me reset, because and Shannon mentioned Apple actually does the processing on the device, so they keep this anonymized. That helps. Okay, but good. Even so, I like what Amazon does, because they say, look, we are associating it with your account, so we give you clear access to what you have. Now, it would be better if they just said we don't associate with your account, because then I wouldn't have to worry. But at least I know I can go in with my eyes wide open and decide, all right, I'm gonna keep up on my history and make sure I delete things, which I can do, which I don't. Right? That's the problem. However, is this actually worse than what used to happen, where with a warrant they could tap your telephone line and potentially, in some cases, take an old-fashioned telephone and turn it into a microphone so they could hear everything that was going on in your home all the time, something that the Echo can be hacked to do, but is not something Amazon is going to do under a warrant. There's no precedent for that. So in a sense, they used to be able to get more than they can get out of this, though this can get more in a different way. Yeah,
but I think we've clearly seen that, law enforcement, for good or bad, they any means they have to gather information they want to solve the cases that you're trying to solve, they're going to use and try to get. So I don't know if it makes it any worse or any better, but it's just, we always have to remember that when you have new technology like this, it also gets used in multiple ways, not just the way the inventor intended.
Yeah. Go ahead, Shannon.
I think previously, when wiretapping was a huge concern, we didn't know about it. But then when Snowden came out and, started issuing a bunch of data about what the government was collecting, we got so much more power, so much more knowledge as consumers that we did start learning and start understanding like what kind of information the government is allowed to collect and what kind of information different companies are collecting. So the only reason that they're being transparent, these companies, they don't have to be transparent with their consumers. And I think that's a very important point. But they are willing to do so because they want their customers to trust them, because they don't want to lose us as customers. So now we have this issue where we're kind of going back and forth. It's like a tennis match. Like, yes, on one hand, we want the convenience and the power of this new technology, but on the other hand, we're losing some of the privacy that we used to have. However, wiretapping, I believe, was much worse. So what is the perfect answer here?
Yeah, there is none. I think that's why this is such a good topic, because Amazon is actually doing a lot of the right things. They are doing a transparency report. They do give you access to what's recorded and give you the ability to delete it. But that still doesn't make it an ideal situation. And that's a much more interesting thing to think about and to decide, because you have the information, but should you still give it over, right? That's a harder question to answer.
And the one piece that just sits out there is, why is Apple and other companies comfortable and anonymizing the data, but they chose not to? I really would like to know their technical answer for that.
It's easier. It's a whole lot easier to provide a high quality experience if you don't anonymize the data. I'll give you that answer right now. It's a lot harder to pull off, and it's one of the reasons that people are like, Siri just isn't as good sometimes.
I don't use Siri, so I couldn't attest to any of those.
I honestly find they all seem to flounder, the same way. Yeah, Cortana I have never once used, so I have no opinion there. But Google, Amazon, Apple, the assistants are great. They're super helpful. They've enriched my life, but they're not perfect, and they're all not perfect in the same way, at least for me.
All right. Well, let's move along then to our next topic, Sarah.
Yeah, so this is actually a good topic, Chris, because we've really been kicking it around all week. I'll go ahead and kind of set up this whole net neutrality conversation and then let you take it from there. So this week, we discussed on the show the governors of Montana and then New York both signed laws requiring ISPs to honor net neutrality principles in order to get contracts with state governments. States basically saying, well, we're going to make it really hard for you if you're not following these net neutrality rules, where we're bucking what the FCC wants us to do, what the federal government wants us to do. And of course, laws vary state by state. Possibility of the FCC continuing to change regulations as these administrations change, given the idea of a federal law, new momentum. AT&T earlier this week presented its own vision. It was what did they call it? The Internet Bill of Rights. Yeah. Regulations for companies like Google and Facebook, tech companies, as well as telecoms and cable companies. So, Chris, I know this is of a lot of interest to you. What are your thoughts on the idea that states want to make things as difficult as possible, and are they going to be successful if enough states kind of band together and create a lot of friction?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been on this cat jet pie from day one. I mean, the moment he was put in the office, I was like, nah, this is not right. So I've been, kind of looking at this all of last year, and we us who watch this tech stuff and we watch the politics, and we, sometimes we just get defeated when we see certain moves that are made. And when the vote comes in, it came in, I was like, it's over, and I know that they're trying to pass the little thing in the Senate, but they're not going to have enough votes, and the president will never sign it. So, I kind of felt defeated. And what interested me is that even though in this particular moment I was like, man, it's over, the fact that there was another interesting angle that the states took to protect themselves and to protect their people from this law. And I just found that to be super interesting that the fight wasn't over. Okay. And, and because the one thing that really I thought was the nail in the coffin was the fact that he added the clause in his judgment that precluded the states from making their own laws to get around what he was doing with net neutrality, with dismantling it. So the fact that they're saying, well, we're not going to make a law, we're just going to make a rule. You want to do business with us? No throttling of internet. I just thought that was so gangster that it just really made me happy. And so that's the part that I found particularly interesting. And then in the same week that we hear about this, you have Burger King coming to the rescue and trying to educate people on net neutrality. And I think that's one of the biggest problems because, I see what people are talking about on Facebook, and no one that's just what I consider to be a civilian in the tech world. I didn't see anybody posting and say, oh, this is terrible. They're just, Trump this and all that other stuff. And nobody talked about this. So the fact that Burger King was like, I'm going to use this to gain popularity because we can go viral with this. And they did. But the fact that it really did educate more people this week than knew about net neutrality last week. So the fact that people are still fighting to fix this and make sure that it doesn't come into play, I just found that super interesting.
Yeah, I think Burger King getting a viral hit out of it and states being willing to go to the trouble to create these contract rules for themselves, which, it may sound like an easy thing to do. Oh, the governor just signs an executive order, but it's going to be complex behind the scenes to make that part of the bidding process and everything. It shows that this debate is not satisfied. People are not okay with it, and we need a better solution. That AT&T bill, as flawed as it was, their proposal, is a good sign that, even if it's coming from someone who's, clearly got a conflict of interest in this fight, at least it's them saying, well, maybe the best way is to create some legislation. And if we do that in a way that is bipartisan and that can happen, seems less likely than ever these days, right? But it could. That would be the best thing, is to say, you know what? These are the behaviors that really, come on, everybody agrees. The ISPs say they don't want to do blocking and throttling. Paid prioritization is the one they're always like, no, well, maybe not. Maybe we'd like to do that one. So let's blocking, throttling, put that in the bill. Everybody agrees with it. And let's start from there and saying, okay, why do you really want paid prioritization beyond the fact that you think you can make bank on it? Is there some valid reason? Is there a way that it could be done that doesn't offend people or actually upset the marketplace? It could be done. The problem is net neutrality became a political football where it was like healthcare. Like you were on one side or the other, no matter what the truth was about it. I kind of wish the Burger King thing meant that it was depoliticizing it. I'm not sure it does, though.
Yeah, I think that first, I didn't take the AT&T gesture as goodwill at all. And I think exactly what you mentioned was the fact that they're basically trying to get legislation put in that allows them to do the paid prioritization versus the other pieces of it. So, I give them no love, none whatsoever. However, the fact that it's so politicized now, and I think it just has to do with the AT&T, Verizon. All of these guys are really just paying. The fact that Ajit Pai used to work for Verizon says it all right there. He's not there by accident. So, to me, it has. If we look at this, it just has to be a law, very simple, that says you're not allowed to do that. Let's move on. And even to the point where, I still don't understand why the internet is not becoming a utility. Much like, I don't have a home phone. I haven't had a home phone in 10 years. But I definitely have internet.
Who has?
And it is a utility. I mean, forget about the legal definition. Like, it is something that we rely on to do our daily lives more and more, not less and less. The people who used to be able to say, I can get along fine without the internet, are less able to do that. And I see that in people that I used to know who are like, I don't need one of those gadgets. now have an Android smartphone, right? Like it's just happening. More and more things are app related. We're going to talk about this in a later discussion. So it is essential to have the internet to live a decent life. And it's soon becoming like electricity that you have to have internet to live an acceptable life. So this is important. It is beyond politics, and we need to get it right.
Right. So that's why I thought you had an interesting point when you said, let's talk about what a law should look like. But the reality is, the more I think about it, and I was like, what should we put in a law? Or if we took the Bill of Rights out of AT&T's grubby hands and we said, let's do a Bill of Rights and do it the right way. But at the heart of it, I'm like, wait a minute, it can't be a law about what you can do and what you can't do. What really needs to happen is it needs to become a utility, and then that's the end of it.
Well, but what does that mean? There has to be a law that defines what that utility is, right?
Well, yeah. So, yeah, but I'm saying instead of necessarily putting rules, it's just,
You're saying a net neutrality law doesn't go far enough. You need to just make it like, and that's what
Basically,
the FCC tried to do under Wheeler, is make it a common carrier. The problem is those definitions apply to somebody else. They apply to telephone, and the fit was awful. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
that's a big problem. Yeah, that's a huge problem that we've been seeing throughout this whole net neutrality debate over the course of how long has it been now? A decade that this has been going on. So one of the huge issues that we've been seeing with internet is that we've been trying to use all these old school definitions and try to create something that works within the boundaries of what the government is used to with other old telecom companies and other utilities. The internet is a completely different beast, and that's what makes net neutrality a completely different beast. And it's past time that we create some new terminology to define how the internet should be accessed and what kind of rights we should have as internet citizens.
Yeah, the Telecommunications Act of 1996 did that for cable television.
Right.
It came in and it said, look, the 30s era telephone law doesn't work well with cable. We have a different situation. Let's define what cable is, define what it's not, and set the rules for how it's behaving. And Chris, I think your argument's working on me a little, which is net neutrality is just one section in that law, accessibility and rollout, and whether municipalities should be allowed to create their own internets or not, which there are more and more studies showing that when they do, and they do in highly conservative areas, it ends up being better, not just for the citizens, but also for the competition. It ends up making a more competitive landscape. So we need to take all of this information into account and create the rules of the game for everyone.
Well, I sat back and I tried to figure out, why am I so jaded over this particular topic? Aside from the fact, obviously, I'm a gamer. I use the internet just like everybody else. But I in my area, we had one cable company, and it was they were called Montgomery Cable at the time, and then they became Comcast. And I remember paying $4 for a remote control.
Yeah,
on the bill. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember looking over the bills like, I got to pay $4 for the remote, $7 for the box, $13 for the service, and just like, this is ridiculous. Why am I, and that's, I remember when, the laws came in and they said, no, you can't charge for this stuff anymore. And so, to me, this is that all over again by the same companies.
Yeah.
And
granted,
those companies
Act of 1996 is not perfect, but go ahead.
Those companies are still charging people monthly for routers that would be like a one-time purchase for
modems,
for modems rather. And that's it's sort of like, it's so egregiously
just this nickel and diming has always bugged me.
Well, and you know what it is? It's not so much like, if you know better, you're like, well, that's just a terrible choice. Why would anyone do that? Right. But the companies know that enough folks don't know the difference and aren't educated enough to say, oh, you're not going to take money that you don't deserve. And that's what always angers me.
Yeah, I remember having a post-mortem call with DirecTV, and it was like, what can we do to get you back? And I was like, absolutely nothing. I was like, and let me list out why. And I was telling them, I said, I have an HD receiver. I'm paying you for the privilege to watch shows in HD because there was a separate charge for HD, and then I had to pay you to record those shows. What? It's a HD DVR. It does all of that stuff. Why am I paying you separately for all of those capabilities that are in the box? So, just as an example of one of the things.
And DirecTV in its day was one of the less abusive companies that you could get TV from.
I said, you guys were the bomb. You saved me from Comcast. So you could do nothing wrong in my eyes until you did.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's always the way. Nick with a C in our chat room has a good question. He had asked, what's the difference between paid prioritization and throttling? He's like, it sounds like the same thing. And it can have the same effect, but the reason you'll hear ISPs say we're against throttling is throttling means I go and I say, you, Google.com, are going to be slowed down. Whenever we see Google.com packets, we're putting them at the back of the row, right? We're going to slow you down. They're not going to do that. And I believe them when they say they're not going to do it. Paid prioritization is everybody's coming in at the same speed. Everything's neutral. Oh, except Google paid, so we're going to put them on the front of the line. So their stuff comes in a little faster. Maybe it slows the rest of the traffic down. Maybe it doesn't. Depends on the day. But your Google traffic always, because they paid, always going to come in first. So it's a subtle difference, and it doesn't have quite the same effect. But that's why they want to do it, because they can say like, oh, well, most of the time, all your traffic is going to be the same. It's just we want somebody to be able to pay to have their traffic always be perfect.
Yeah, it's like paying for pre-check at the airport.
Yeah. TSA pre is paid prioritization. Totally is.
That is a really good analogy, right? It's like that's getting to the front of the line is great. But if we were getting throttled in the TSA line, that means like I've been standing there for 10 minutes and it's like, no, Sarah, you have to go to the back of the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Except I am willing to pay for pre-check.
So am I.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's your option, right? And this is why paid prioritization is so nefarious. If that's your option and you can afford it, then you'll pay it. What happens is the person who can't afford it has to wait in that big long line.
Yep. I can probably afford it, but I don't because I don't feel I should, because I think that TSA should just be better. So again, the analogy continues. It's the principle of it. It's like, oh, this whole process sucks. So, well, and there's the movie.
All right. I'm sure we're going to get some emails about the TSA pre-analogy. So send them to us. feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. I like that one. Let's move on to the discussion topic that was picked by the advisors at our advisor level at patreon.com/DTNS. The question is, what's the number one tech topic you're sick of? People know that we cover a lot of this stuff and we see it over and over and over again. And I'm sure they've picked up that some of us have favorite topics and less favorite topics. So I think this will be interesting. Shannon, we'll start with you. What's that topic that you're just roll your eyes at every time you see it come up?
Well, since I recently went to CES, the idea of consumer gadgetry has been on my mind quite a bit over the past couple of weeks. And I got to say every single time I go to CES and I see one of these things, I legit roll my eyes in real life. Smart refrigerators. They just gotta go. I know it's ridiculous and I know it's such a stupid little thing, but I am so sick of hearing these companies tout their smart refrigerators like it's the newfound finagled thing and everybody needs one. I see zero use for smart refrigerators.
I'm not going to ask you how old you were in 1999, but I was seeing smart refrigerators at CES, well, in 2000, I guess, but yeah, I mean, that's an oldie but a goodie as far as
I was
CES
15.
I mean, that's how long this has been going on. I totally hear you.
It's ridiculous.
The smart refrigerator thing it's kind of like the symbol of the useless tech that won't go away, that everyone's like, still don't need it, but it just keeps getting more sort of advanced. Like, now we've got an iPad and the, Whirlpool refrigerator. However, I will say at this year's CES, and an interview I did recently for another project where we were interviewing somebody who is putting together a health startup that's kind of a combination of accessing your DNA, through some prick of your blood and some saliva, that kind of thing, kind of 23andMe type stuff. But in order to give you a not only sort of chart of what kind of meal plan would be best for you, but also meal delivery plans. And this particular company has nothing to do with smart refrigerators. They don't do hardware at all. But the CEO of the company was saying, you take it a step further. What we would like to do at some point in the future is be able to have, a refrigerator that can tap into this very specified meal plan for optimum health, so that if you've got stuff coming in and you're really taking this seriously and you really want to like dig into, the best version of yourself for your health, then something like a smart refrigerator that can tap into that data makes a little bit more sense. Yeah, it's way overkill for most people. But again, as somebody who is not very good at eating things before they go bad, I would also like my refrigerator to tell me that.
Yeah.
See, that makes a lot more sense to me. That makes a lot more sense. The idea that it would help you, get better with your health, which is something that a lot of us, including myself, really need help with. But on the other hand, currently, what we are seeing in the smart refrigerator genre, because apparently that's a genre, is simplicity. Like these very simple things that it can do with smart, like you can see through the transparent screen on your front door and you can see what's in the fridge. Like I can open the fridge. It's so easy to do that. You can talk to it and tell it to add things to your grocery list. Well, what are you going to do when you get to the grocery store? Are you going to take your fridge with you, or are you going to open your Amazon Echo app and do the same exact thing?
Yeah.
So
the problem is they're not very smart. The smart refrigerators are dumb.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's my biggest issue with it is just so far I have not seen like the wow smart refrigerator that actually does like all these super useful things, because I already have some kind of technology elsewhere that does everything that it offers me.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of home appliances that we can say, oh, but think about if it did this thing, because now we're all, we're trying to, everything has to be optimized, right? Everything should be optimized, save us time, save us money, make us healthier, blah, blah, blah. But it's still, it's all very conceptual at this point. We're a few levels back still.
It's not good at it yet. If it could say, while I'm at the store, hey, your eggs are about to go bad, get new eggs. Also, if you want to make that stroganoff you're talking about, here's the things you have, and here's the things you need to get. Okay, then that's a smart fridge. But they don't do that yet.
Yeah, right. None of that. I just bought a new washing machine, and I didn't even think about looking at anything that was like along the lines of smart. I just wanted to wash my clothes. That's it. And and I love to smoke food, so it's just not in me to be like, oh, I need to have all these different ingredients. I don't
want a smart smoker.
No, my smoker needs to be what it is. My homeboy. I got a little fan that goes with it. I can access that remotely to keep the temperature where I want it to be.
I'm going to come over to your house and eat. I'm telling you. You keep talking about the smoker every time
you're not going home.
I know. I'm just going to eat my way to my food coma. Well, Chris, let's move on to you. What is your number one tech topic you're sick of?
My number one tech topic that I don't want to see another article, another commercial, another nothing about is who stole whose feature. I am so done with this feature existed on this platform and this feature. If you don't think that a cool feature is going to end up somewhere else, you are dumb. So just stop it already with this. Oh, well, yeah. Good job, Apple, for getting this feature in after 10 years. Just shut it. Nobody cares. They're gonna bring the feature. People are gonna use it. They're gonna love it. They're even gonna pretend Apple invented it. Just get over it. Enough. No more who stole whose feature first.
Yeah. I mean, there are some cases where it's like, oh, wait, you're definitely patent infringing, right? But those are so rare, and people are like, "Oh, so you put out a Square phone too? Rip off!" Like, wait a minute, hold on.
It's just gone too far.
Yeah,
it's just, where people are rocking Apple jerseys and Samsung jerseys. Let's just put an end to this stuff.
I have definitely been at fault of doing that in the past, Chris, and I will graciously apologize to you for doing this.
Aw, look at this.
As an Android user, I have definitely said on some of my previous podcasts, oh, well, I've had wireless for like 4 years. Nexus had a wireless before the iPhone did. So I've definitely done that before.
Well, and it used to be the thing to do with browsers, too. Every time Chrome had a new feature, I'd be like, yeah, Firefox had that years ago, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
So let's 2018, y'all put that to bed.
Yep. I'm with you.
Like, oh, it's a feature here.
Well,
Great.
I think this is, I agree that who had what first is tiresome, but it all kind of plays into a bigger, like, people choose technology that it becomes a very personal decision. Yes, it's a financial decision or, a platform decision on some level, but it's something that you're going to use all the time. And people can get really bent out of shape when they feel as though they're being challenged for making this decision that's a very personal one. And so I think that that's where you get these like, well, no, my device had that before your device. My device is actually better than your device. Don't tell me that I made a bad choice, because I think there's like a whole defensiveness thing in technology. I'm certainly guilty of it at times. It's annoying, but it's also really fascinating. How upset you can make somebody by touting a feature that either again, let's just use a smartphone as an example. Either their smartphone had first, or maybe their smartphone doesn't have yet. But it's like, hey, if it works for you, we should all be happy, right? We're online, woo! But unfortunately, that's just not human behavior.
Yeah, I'm a season ticket holder, and I've watched guys get into fist fights in the stand over games where I'm like, how much are they paying you? Because you're not making any of those millions. Why are you punching each other in the face? It doesn't make any sense.
Because Apple ripped off handspring visor, Chris. That's why.
Just stop it already.
Good stuff.
All right. Sarah Lane, what about you?
All right. So I know that we talk a lot about the ups and downs, the volatility, the ICOs, the everything to do with the cryptocurrency craze and overall movement. Cryptocurrency itself is not something that I'm tired of. What I am tired of are what we will call cryptocurrency experts. And everyone I know is one now. Now, of, let's say, 100 people that now talk about cryptocurrency on Facebook regularly with authority, probably 2 to 3 of those people I would really trust to explain it, to come on the show and explain it, in an authoritative way. And I don't fault anybody for being excited about something new that is largely unproven as far as the greater population goes, and has a lot of kinks to work out yet, and has a potential to change the world, right? Like, that part of it is very exciting, and I understand why people want to be a part of that. And I do too. But I have now started to kind of notice in that dinner party atmosphere, a lot of people saying stuff where I'm like, just not even gonna get involved in this, but you don't know what you're talking about, and it's just kind of bad information.
But I just want to guess, are most of them former social media experts?
It's possible. Right. Social media mavens, I think is the term you're thinking.
They've pivoted to a...
Right. And I, again, it's like, what this whole... So, for example, I've got a friend who, it's like he just woke up a week ago and discovered Bitcoin, and now he's going to like start a company about Bitcoin. And it's like, you know what? I hope it succeeds. I do. But I think, there's so much information going around and conversations being had where I'm like, this is just, it's almost like a political thing, where I'm like, that's not accurate. You don't know what you're saying. And now that third person thinks that you're right, and you guys are going to lose all your money.
I'm with you on that. I've had this issue where I have not researched cryptocurrency at all. And being a journalist who focuses on technology, I feel like I'm going to have to force myself into cryptocurrency just so I can understand it enough to talk about it. But I constantly see information from people who I have never seen talk about technology explaining cryptocurrency, and it's the weirdest thing. And I'm currently at that point with my research that I don't know what information is factual and what information I'm seeing that is either misinformation or just blatantly incorrect. So I feel like it might be doing a disservice to the community at large that is trying to get into cryptocurrency when we keep on seeing this kind of misinformation that's happening.
Right. And then you also have these, kind of clickbaity stories about the Bitcoin millionaires of Silicon Valley, these people who got in early. And it's like, yeah, there are a small amount of people who have a bunch of money now, or at least
50
money.
cent for one.
Right, exactly. That we're smart enough to get in early, or at least have potential money if they were to convert it into U.S. dollars or whatever. But that kind of thing it really kind of scares me, because it's like there's no get rich quick scheme for everybody. It's like that's not we haven't just figured out how to like print money all of a sudden. That's not the way that this works. And I hear people saying what I think are kind of reckless things about, well, maybe my 401k, and I'll just like put it into XRP, and it's like, oh my gosh, we need to like everybody get your head back on straight. So the cryptocurrency experts, cut it out, everybody, unless you really are one.
Yeah,
I don't get nothing. I don't pay attention to it, so I don't have the passion you have into it. But I'm with you, just because you have passion in what you're saying. Because the only stores that I tend to even consider looking at when it comes to Bitcoin, or I sold my house to buy Bitcoin, is like, yes, I got to see how on earth you got to be that dumb. So let's read your story so I can figure out how to.
Yeah. And we've done a few cryptocurrency episodes here to try to help people understand it. But really the main thing to understand right now is it's super volatile. No one's sure exactly what it's going to be good for, right? I can tell you how it works. Nobody can tell you what's going to happen with it. And anybody who thinks they are sure is lying to you. Look at their resume. They were probably a social media maven, and before that an SEO specialist, and before that a webmaster, and who knows what.
Hey, what do you have against webmasters?
I know, I was a webmaster too. I was trying to think, what was the .com era version of this?
Technically, Tom, you're still a webmaster.
Thank you. I appreciate you acknowledging that.
There's nothing wrong with
you're a modern webmaster.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with owning a GeoCities website when you were a kid. Okay.
No, I totally owned two myself. I was in the Athens neighborhood and the Soho neighborhood. I still remember it fondly. All right, the one that I'm tired of. There's so many. I'll be honest, you guys have touched on a couple of them already. But the one that I think really just bugs me the most are the device rumors. The rampant, permanent place in Google News for Apple iPhone rumors and Samsung Galaxy S9 rumors. It used to just be the iPhone, but man, tell you what, Samsung should take this to heart. Their rumors are in there as constantly as the Apple rumors. And it's not that I don't want to know a little bit ahead of time, right? We talked about Ev leaks with the S9 images today. That's because I know he's trustworthy. I know his leaks almost always pan out. And that's why he works for VentureBeat now. But there's just so much fluff out there, and people taking things that don't mean anything and turning them into something that doesn't. So it just bugs me. It's like, oh, I want to just wait till they announce it, and then we can get excited. What good is it to know ahead of time? Maybe you can short the stock if it looks bad or something if you're an investor. I don't know. But as a device person, if I can't buy it yet anyway, what do I care?
You mean you didn't want to know that Apple was canceling the iPhone 10? You didn't want to know that early?
Except they're not canceling the iPhone 10. It's such a misinterpretation, right? It's like, no, they're coming out with 3 new versions of a phone like they did last year that they may or may not name iPhone 10 or something else. It's what they're doing is incredibly predictable. But you're right, Chris. That's a great example of the clickbait headline. Apple's going to upset the apple cart.
And the big websites that picked up on that, and it was just like, whoa, business, what are you guys doing? This is just like, wow. Yeah, you're 100% right with that. I agree.
Well, big thanks to David Jones, who nominated this topic and put it up for the vote.
I will confess that I know we're running short on time. I was one of those people. I used to live and breathe like gadget rumors. It wouldn't matter if it was 2 years out. It was just something to live. It was like little bits of
something to live for.
It was sadly a very fervent period of my time, and I think it's just part and parcel of living on the internet.
This is the integrity of Roger Chang in motion, by the way. He's playing himself off
yes.
right now. All right, let's get to our last discussion topic. Sarah.
Yes, Tom. All right. So this is a topic that's near and dear to me, particularly because I did some travel today and sort of had to jump through a few hoops to be sitting here doing the show with you guys. But the idea that travel in the realm of technology has changed a lot over, let's call it the last decade plus. Tom, do we want to start in 2003/5 before sort of the smartphone era?
Sure. You want me to paint you a word picture?
Okay.
It's 2003. You're traveling.
Picture
You go to
Sicily.
the airport. You might have a Wi-Fi card that you put into the side of your ThinkPad T42, but there's no airport Wi-Fi. There's no 3G for your cell phone. You might have WAP on your phone. There are many fewer charging stations. Generally, if you can plug in your laptop at the airport to charge it, it's because you're using the same outlet that the people use to vacuum. There's no apps to check your flights and delays. You've got to look at the boards. If you're out driving around, you have to have a GPS device if you want to use mobile maps. It's not on your telephone. Cell phone service goes out if you're in a busy location like a conference or a city center or crossing a bridge. You're watching videos on your plane on your portable DVD player, and you couldn't have it powered on during takeoff and landing. Not only couldn't have it out, you couldn't even have it on, and you didn't have charger on the plane either. Like this was the world a mere 15 years ago.
I spent a year outside of the U.S. From 2006 to 2007. So it's, this is even a few years in the future, but still, this is pre-iPhone, pre-smartphone in the world that we all know it as. And many of the countries I was visiting were developing countries. And, I had a MacBook Pro. I guess it was a MacBook Pro. But that was it. And I remember even beforehand researching, okay, well, if I needed to get internet kind of on the go, like would satellite internet be something that I might want to invest in? And it was like catastrophically expensive. Like Larry Ellison might be able to afford it, but nobody else was doing that. Going to an internet cafe was the only way you could get the laptop online if you were lucky. And usually, even then, you couldn't explain to somebody, no, just give me the Ethernet cable and I'll just do it myself. It was like, no, that's your laptop is no good here. We don't know what that is. You have to sit at this Windows machine that's, dusty and doesn't really work that well and, that kind of thing. So, and that was fine, actually, in a way. It was a great way to unplug. But there, to do that same trip today would be like a cakewalk compared to how hard it was to get online once a week if I was lucky.
Yeah, and today, just to bring it full circle before we get you guys' opinions on how this has changed for you. Yesterday, or I guess it was Wednesday, I had a flight delay notification show up in my app while I'm at the coffee shop. I used the app to rebook to an earlier flight with one tap. My new boarding pass arrived over the internet while I was on the BART train, the subway train in San Francisco, where I was getting full internet. I swiped my phone at the security checkpoint and to board the plane. No paper boarding passes. On board, the airline had Wi-Fi for a charge, but free in-flight movies and TVs that were delivered wirelessly to my device. And I could use my phone from the moment I boarded until I landed. The only thing I had to do was turn off cell data connectivity. I could leave Wi-Fi on. I could leave the phone on. Just everything different from 15 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
I remember back in 2007 when the Kindle was first released, and I bought the first one. It was my first time on a plane in ages because I was still in school, so I couldn't take vacations anywhere unless it was over the summertime. But I took the Kindle onto the plane, and they told me to shut it off during takeoff and landing. I wasn't allowed to have it on. And I looked at them, and I was like, it's an ebook reader. It doesn't even have a connection. It did if you wanted to connect to anything, but it wasn't connected at all. And I was just like, what? I don't understand why this is a problem. And now a decade later, it's no problem at all. You can leave everything on during takeoff and landing as long as it's a small little device. They're like, I don't care. You
know,
got a
it's
little
funny, too.
Nintendo switch. It's all good. Leave it on.
I've noticed too that yes, in the days where the devices need to be powered off, you know, and you kind of like, gotta, you know, if the flight attendant walked by, you know, try to send that text, you know, into the last minute. I mean, there were times where I was really pushing it, you know, and someone would stand over me and be like, "No, we're gonna watch you power that down."
Yeah.
You know, because you're, you know, like it was sort of a standoff kind of thing. And now I know that you're supposed to put your let's say, you know, for example, my iPhone this morning, you know, put it in airplane mode if I want to keep it on, which is way better than powering it off entirely, at least for convenience sake. But no one really seems to be checking.
No,
and it doesn't. I don't.
Checks.
Yeah, and that just sort of leads me to believe it's like there was this weird rule that existed, and no one really knew why. But now that it doesn't anymore, or it's a lot more lax, it's like that rule doesn't seem to be being enforced much at all. I have been guilty of just forgetting to go into airplane mode, and it's like, you know, I didn't do it on purpose, but nobody checked.
Yeah.
And then a phone call comes through, and then it lights up the entire airplane as you're taking off the runway.
My phone has it wasn't during takeoff, but it was before landing. But we were still in the air, like we weren't like over the runway, and my phone rang loudly, and it was mortifying. One of the most embarrassing moments, you know, because it was back in the day a little bit, but yeah, it's just interesting to me, you know, what's being enforced and why.
Yeah, I remember just having our headquarters was in Phoenix, and so I'd take frequent trip to Phoenix and of course to California when we had meetings out there, and could not pack for a trip without having like 2 extra batteries just to make sure I could use the tech that we talked about using on the phone. And nowadays, I don't even think about it anymore because the battery life on a lot of these devices have significantly increased. Where you're not carrying a spare battery. You know, for me, like when I would go camping, I didn't go camping without a bed, a couple extra batteries, generator, all of that stuff. Now I'm like, yeah, you know, it's only a day or two, so yeah, I'll be fine. And so
and in airports and stuff, now there's chargers everywhere.
Yeah,
you used to have to.
Too, yeah,
I used to bring a power strip with me in my laptop bag because when I found the plug at the airport, I'd be able to plug in more than one device and share it with people. Like if somebody was taking up the plug, that was always my deal of like, hey, do you mind if I do the power strip? And then we can all plug in and anybody's welcome. You don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's been a long time since I was like kind of freaking out at the airport. Like it's a Lord of the Flies situation. Like whoever finds that plug, like dives to the carpet first and then just sort of like sits there like Gollum, like get away from me. But yeah, it's that part of it is very nice. I remember the first flight I took, the first transatlantic flight I took to Europe that had Wi-Fi. And because for a long time it was like there was no Wi-Fi, and then it was some planes in the continental US would have it, and then most of all of the flights would have it, but you'd never be able to go overseas and have Wi-Fi the whole time. And the first time I was on a plane that had that, I was like, my mind is blown. The world is magic. I will never complain about anything again. It's the most wonderful thing. And then the last time I was on a flight, it like wasn't working for some reason, and it was like I was just having a meltdown, you know, because you get so used to these things, but you forget so quickly how that was just, it didn't exist, and you don't know what you have until it's gone.
Well, and that's a great point, because it used to be people would advise each other like, hey, is it worth logging on? I see you took the dive and paid for the Wi-Fi. Is it actually working? And a couple of times people unsolicited would see me and go, I just logged on. It's crap. You might not want to pay. And now it's the opposite of like, what? It's not working. Like, how dare they?
Right.
I demand a free wine.
And yeah, money back. When I was on a flight this morning, it was go-go flight. It was a United flight, and I always pay for internet because it's like I just have stuff to do. Or even if I don't, makes the time go by faster. And I wanted to play a song. Like there was some song I really wanted to listen to, and I hadn't downloaded it from Apple Music, so I could only access it via the Apple Music radio option. And the go-go was just like they just aren't letting people stream music yet.
Yeah.
Not there yet, so I was like, dang it, gosh, it's not like I'm trying to stream a movie, it's just a song.
Right.
But it won't be long now that we'll all be doing that, and we'll all be like, remember how we used to have to download podcast episodes before you got on a flight? It's like it's gonna get to a point where this will all seem silly.
Yeah, and yet we're still so far, because I think someone mentioned earlier that we still carry around driver's license, and even though with these pay things you're getting close with like Apple Pay and the other pay, but it really bugs me that I'm still have to bring a wallet with me everywhere I go.
Yeah, we've had conversations certainly on DTNS, and kind of everyone I know of like, the digital wallet, Apple Pay or, Samsung Pay or Android Pay. And like, so there are definitely people who are, using it regularly, but not as much as I thought would be, the adoption rate at this point. However, I had a situation today where I had to pick up a rental car. Well, I've got my passport with me, because that's what I travel with. And I just did not bring this particular wallet that my driver's license is in. Well, you can't rent a car with a passport. You have to have a driver's license because you have to prove that you are allowed to drive.
You can carry the car across borders with the passport, but you can't drive it. Yeah.
Right. You got to push it, and I'm just not that strong. So I was like, gosh, I wish that whole digital wallet thing that we've been talking about for a few years, where, there's just sort of like some digital scan of all of our, government issued IDs would have really come in handy.
You're like, wish we lived in a surveillance state. I really do.
I really do. Really do. Well, I don't, but I did for about 5 minutes today.
Yeah.
I'm still the weirdo over here that never pays for internet or wireless on planes, but that's mostly just because I go to DEF CON. Mm-hmm. I'm also the one weirdo who still carries a physical wallet and is okay with that. And it's because I go to DEF CON. So I'm perfectly fine with having disconnected things while I'm in a plane, because I know Wi-Fi pineapples work on planes. And also because I don't want my credit cards to get hacked.
I also carry a wallet, and I also will not use public Wi-Fi internet anywhere unless I have a VPN set up, and even then it's like off and on.
But the fun thing on the airplane is to see everybody else's laptops show up as shared devices, Shannon.
Yeah,
I agree. And if you want to learn more, check out Hack 5.
I will say, just as on the subject of plane Wi-Fi, I've had this conversation with, I have friends who they're not disconnecting from Wi-Fi or choosing not to buy it because they're worried about privacy or security. They just don't want it because they want to be alone on a flight reading a book. So
yeah, it's one more place where we no longer have an excuse.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, that is it for what I must say has been a very cathartic roundtable. We've gotten over our fan addiction to accusing people of feature ripoff and rumor mongering. This has been very helpful. Len Peralta has been illustrating throughout this entire episode. Len, what have you come up with?
Well, Tom, you mentioned earlier that you were going to paint a word picture, and I painted a physical picture of the. The last
you painted a paint picture.
A paint picture, exactly. Airport travel then and now, and it's your classic, going through the motions of the last 15 years, where the only thing that hasn't changed is that we still have to take our shoes off. Although I understand that you do, you don't have to do that in pre-check, but
it's the evolution of traveler.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's so cute.
That's perfect. That's a better name than I can. Oh man.
He slowly stands up over time, but he still can't wear shoes.
He can't wear shoes. That's right. One thing. So this is available in my online store right now, lenperaltastore.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Len. Go check it out, folks. This is actually great because he used some of my notes from the rundown on the poster. It's perfect.
But there are some other ones there that you need to read. So you have to go check it out at the store. So.
lenperaltastore.com.
Well, thank you so much to our roundtable guests today. Chris, Ashley, we will start with you and give folks a chance to know what you're up to these days.
Yo, you can always find me on the SMR podcast, smrpodcast.com. Just three of us on there talking tech and other stuff too. Just a fun show. You can always check us out. You'll feel like you're one of us when you listen.
One of us.
Exactly. And you can catch me on Twitter at Big Chris Ashley.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Shannon Morse, you're on other shows besides roundtable shows, but and you're not only on DTNS, you do all sorts of stuff. Give everybody a chance to learn more.
I do. TechThing, tekthing.com. That's where you can find out about all sorts of consumer technology. We do how-tos, interviews, and reviews. Our latest episode not only talks about cryptocurrency, Sarah, but we also discussed the video.
But you guys are experts, so that's
not me. I think Patrick knows more than I do on that front. But we also talked about video gear that we took to CES, and that was really fun. So I was able to talk about all the cool new gadgets that I'm using. And then ThreatWire is my other show, and you can find that over at hack5.org, HAK5.org. Recently, I've been discussing the new FISA reauthorization that happened through the government. So that's a pretty interesting subject, as well as explaining Spectre and Meltdown, which happened recently. So definitely check that out. We're about to hit 400,000 subscribers on YouTube at Hack5. So if you want to subscribe, now would be a really great time because we're almost going to hit that goal. It's youtube.com/hack5.
What happens when you hit the gold? Is there a party? Do you have some cake?
I feel like we should have chocolate cake and some wine.
Yeah.
Those are two of my favorite things.
Perfect. I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sam.
Get them over the line, people. We want chocolate
I'm
cake and
hungry.
wine. Hey, would you like more of these shows? We do this once a month right now, but we could do it more. Our next milestone is less than $2,000 away and would get us to do 2 roundtable episodes a month. Join in on the fun, up your pledge, get some of our cool perks like extended shows and exclusive columns and more at patreon.com/DTNS.
We love your feedback. We love your ideas. We love it when you talk to us, tell you what you like, what you don't like, and all the rest. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2130 UTC at elfgeekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com.
Have a lovely weekend, everybody. We'll be back on Monday with Veronica Belmont. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Oh, that was so good. Thank you, Chris and Shannon.
Show, guys.
That was awesome.
You know, it was so funny. Before the kind of as we were like just getting started, my internet got super weird.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I was like, not again. And so I'm like trying to unplug the phone and the fax machine in here, and it's all nuts. But I realized for whatever reason, my Google Hangouts, if I clicked on that tab, that's what was ruining everything. I just, because I like to go back and forth because I like to see
right.
whoever's on the show, you know, and kind of, you know, some visual cues and that sort of thing. I just left it alone. Huh. I never looked at any of you, but the show was saved.
Could have fooled me.
Yeah.
Hangout is very sensitive.
Yeah, which is
I couldn't bring up Len's page because it was hanging.
Yeah,
like I couldn't get it off the screen.
Well, as you said, Roger, it's sensitive. Let's not talk about it in front of it, or it might just.
Yeah, it's gonna ruin it for everybody.
That was a fun show.
It was great.
That was really fun.
It was great.
What should we call it?
Covered a lot.
Imperfect assistance. Smart fridges are dumb. Whose feature is it anyway? Al, where was your owner on the night of the 25th? The owl in the coal mine.
I just want to scan your body.
I just want to scan your body.
The guy at the gym said, I just want to scan your body.
Let me ask you a question. For anyone who goes through that little radar or the full body scan, like, does anyone else go through it besides me?
I do pre-check every time, so I don't have to.
I don't care. Yeah, I'll do
Yeah,
it.
I totally suck in my gut when I hold up my arms. Totally suck. I know what they're looking at. Tom paints a word picture. the evolution of the traveler. You don't know what you got till it's gone. That sounds like a Rick and Morty thing. Hot Mike
That's a song.
Chronicles.
It was a song by Poison, I think. No. Don't. It's Cinderella. Cinderella.
See, that's one of the hair metal bands I don't remember. You wouldn't like it with Sarah's Angry.
Yeah. I think I'm right.
Montana's so gangsta.
That you don't know what you got till it's gone. Yeah.
Montana's so
Yeah,
gangsta.
that's a great song.
Montana's So Gangsta is one of my favorites.
All right, I will vote it.
That's I'm voting on that right now. Oh crap! It just moved. Okay, there we go.
Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't even catch that one.
So it looks like everyone's leaning toward that one.
Well, it's the problem with smart fridges are dumb is that that's true, but it's like it's not like I feel like someone would be like, well, but we've been saying that for 15 years, which we have.
And it's not a retro show.
Right.
I thought Chicago when you said don't know what you got until it's gone because of the song Hard Habit to Break, which has that lyric in it. And I think that says a lot about all of us that I thought of Chicago and you thought of Cinderella.
Listen, it's just if there's kind of a hair band, like
Really?
let's just call me the hair band expert of 85 through 92.
Now I got to look up the lyrics to that Chicago song.
Did Vixen count as a hair band?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if I came in with a bag of C&H, Sarah would say, pour some sugar on me.
Yeah, but I don't consider Def Leppard a hair metal band.
Yeah,
They are. They
became one, but didn't they predate that? Like, didn't they just change because no?
Well, no. I mean,
there were a few bands that started out in the 70s as hard rock and became hair bands later, but I don't think Def Leppard was one of them.
well, but the thing is that
Well, they started in 77.
the hair band thing like implies that somehow the hair made the music different, and it's like no,
It's more glam. That's glam.
Yeah.
Well, or it's sort of like it's the album that always has like the one or two love songs, because everybody had to do that.
It always
because of
starts with a
school
hard rock
dances.
song.
Right. Yeah. So it's like
The third song was the hit.
yeah. Cinderella's Don't Know What You Got was definitely a slow dance 7th grade type song.
Don't know.
Which is why I remember it because all the girls were
I just
crying.
remember looking at these cats and like, why do these cats want to dress like girls? I don't get it. So I skipped that whole. It wasn't until like now I'm older I go back and start listening to some of these songs and
yeah.
I was playing them on the radio. Like I couldn't avoid them.
It was all Run DMC.
It's actually called hair metal.
Hair metal.
Hair metal. Yeah. Well, they're a special place in my heart. Special place in my heart.
I only know
All the metal
Nobody's Fool
bands.
by Cinderella. That's the only song I know.
Not your fool.
Nobody's fool.
That was their smash.
That was
hit,
the
yeah.
big one.
Well, if you were a girl in 7th grade, it was Don't Know What You Got. Because it was always about a boy that didn't like you and sent a note to your friend to tell you that.
What was he writing about that for?
Who?
The guy from Cinderella. He wrote that song?
He was right. He was
the guy?
No. I'm
writing as
saying
his daughter.
these songs are designed to
Len's
like.
confused why you went to school with the guy from Cinderella. Yeah.
No, I just think it's a kind of a strange song for an adult man to write if it's about.
No. What I'm saying is they're pandering to young girls who want to hear love songs from hair metal bands. It wasn't about sending a note to your friends.
That would be a funny song, though.
That was Dawkins. They Dawkins did the sending note.
I could just see the guy from Cinderella. She didn't get my nose.
Wait, so the title was Montana's So Gangsta. Okay, Montana's.
Yeah.
Montana's So Gangsta.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Oh shoot.
Oh man.
Wow. That was good. That was a good laugh. I almost cried.
Sarah,
Well,
did
you
listen to
know,
Striper?
I'm sure in about 20 years' time, it'll be called Golden Oldies.
Well, yeah. It's funny what is an oldies song these days.
Roger, can I take over the blog
Striper,
post?
Yeah, kind of.
Yes. Oh, am I still? No, I'm out of it.
Okay. It's saying you're in it, but I kind of figured you weren't.
It wasn't
Just
like
making
I
sure.
was. No. I was in the post.
You misspelled my name too.
Oh, Chris Ashley. I'm sorry.
No, you misspelled my name.
Did
my
I
name-
forget an extra T?
Yeah, you forgot the T. It's common.
I hope he didn't mess up my name. My name is.
Well, the nice thing, because I've often thought that too, like how do we do with the Merrit? It's just like
I know.
2 R's, 2 T's. It's not like there's no question. Just it's 2 of everything.
Yep.
That you think they're
Tom Merritt with a U. Tom T-U-M.
MMEERRIITT. Tom Merritt.
Merrit.
Double up.
Tom Merritt.
Merrit.
Mert. Tom Mert.
It's Tom with 2 M's.
That's what my
T-O-M-M.
T-ball coach used to call me, Mert.
Wait,
All right, Mert.
T-ball coach. Wait, T-ball is T-ball the one where they put the ball on top of the little?
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, instead of having a pitcher, you'd have a T.
All right, you guys.
Oh gosh, I used to hate when they'd make us play softball. Like, not even really PE. It was more. Well, I guess it was PE, but it was like when the kids were younger, and it was just like the boys and girls. Everybody was playing. I don't know if everybody's school did that, but my school did, and it was like, in 4th grade, and I was really little, and like I didn't want to play. I wasn't gonna be good. I could never hit it, and it would always be like strike 1, strike 2, and then I'd just like not swing the 3rd time, and they go good eye.
The question is,
And
did
then,
everybody
like I try, and it was just like I hated that being
Did
forced to play team sports when you're no good at them.
Did everybody move up when it was your turn at bat? That's the ultimate killer
Yes,
right there.
because
Oh,
then
I hate that.
it's like it's so rude.
I always felt
But,
bad. I mean, I was an athlete, so it never happened to me. But I always felt bad when the person was up and they're like, "Scoot up!" I'm like, "Oh, geez, that looks terrible."
I know. PTSD.
Everyone just went to left field when I came up because I was a singles hitter. That's where it went every time.
Did you guys have the shirts that were reversible? Like you had to buy that for PE?
No,
When I was in junior high, you had the reverse. One side was yellow, the other side was blue.
Actually, yeah, I forgot about that. I had a white side and a blue side.
We didn't go to one of those ritzy schools.
It wasn't rich. You had
neither did I.
you had to go to
Two-sided. Ooh.
we had to bring our own clothes.
Nothing
Fancy.
ritzy about that school. Yeah, I mean, I
dog
think
school.
probably
You ripped off the arbs.
I don't even think the PE uniform I was wearing was like. I think it was like someone wore it the year before. It
Ew.
wasn't like I know. I mean, it was washed, but it was like it wasn't like a brand new uniform.
I want to tell you guys, this weekend I did something that was so exciting for me, and I guess the person involved too. I called my drama teacher from high school, my theater teacher, and just kind of out of the blue, like he saw my mom at the school that she works at back in my hometown, and he was like, "Oh, I want to know how Shannon's doing." So I called him and I was like, "Hey, just wanted to let you know, like I do YouTube now, and it's because like you were always a huge proponent of my self-confidence, and you gave me the chance to be, do acting in school and stuff, and I want
That's great.
And he was so happy. Like you could just hear it in his voice. He was just so like overjoyed to hear one of his previous students say like, "Hey, you helped me, get a career." So it was just awesome. So if you guys ever have a chance, call your old teachers.
Call Shannon's teacher.
I have so many
still
teachers.
alive.
Yeah.
I have so many teachers.
Yeah, all my teachers are dead.
Actually, a handful of them passed away, like when I was in college. So it's like,
I'm still friends with my sophomore biology teacher.
No kidding.
Which is
that
great.
was against
awesome.
my rules, making friends.
Her
with
name
teachers.
is Nora.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was
Mr.
never
Knapp.
friends with him. It was just like my mom found his number in the phone book after she saw
Oh
him.
no,
She
I was
like,
just
"You should
saying like
call him."
Len. It's like I was on friendly terms with teachers, but she never It's like there's like a line. It's like I don't know. It's like maybe a politician rule. You don't make friends.
You don't want to talk.
I'm Facebook friends with my journalist teacher, and she constantly likes my my really political messages. She's like, and I'm like, I didn't know that about you, but you're cool now.
Now.
I'm like, we agree on things. Yeah, she used to be very hard-handed with the red pen whenever she was correcting things. So.
Oh yeah, journalism teachers. Yeah,
but she
they're
taught
hard.
me
They
a
can be
lot.
harsh.
She
I
did
don't have a
teach me lot.
single teacher I'm in contact with, and that's kind of like not that. I mean, it would be great, I've had
not
some
like
really
you
great
hate them.
teachers over the years. No, yeah, it's just like
That's just you don't
still
do it.
feel
that
like
way.
a student somehow, like
You feel kind of awkward because the only time you really knew them was when at a point of deference, right?
yeah,
They
like
were
the
an
fact that
authority
we're all
figure.
adults. I feel that I would still want to make a really good impression because somebody is an authority figure. And in some cases, I had some terrible teachers that I just would not friend if they asked, but the other ones don't.
I'm
I
trying
don't
to
know. I don't know where any of them are. In fact, I should look up some of my teachers.
I ran into my
Do
music
that.
teacher from junior high. She was on the way to jury duty, and I asked like, "Hey, are you Mrs. Winters? You remember me? I had the bow fight in 1987 in the middle of your classroom." No, you don't remember.
Pretty sure.
All right, we need to have that story another day.
Oh yeah, I should probably. Tom needs to jet.
Yeah, I got to jet out of here. Unfortunately, this was
No.
really fun.
I think. I mean, we've done our housekeeping, right?
Yeah.
For
any
for
last
this
things you guys
beautiful
want to say to the
Friday.
audience before I stop the broadcast?
Peace
I
out,
love you
audience.
guys.
Much love.
I have
Thank you for watching the
Friday
show. See you
was awesome.
Monday.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.